Hello and welcome to the pilot of our new weekly show for CWU members. We will be opening up the union like never before. Interviews, phone-ins, videos, exclusive and campaigns. This will become the go-to place for news from your union nationally. In the coming week, we'll be moving into a new studio where our levels of professionalism will increase. But for the next few weeks though, bear with us as we, iron out the kinks and perfect the formula. So let's get going. We couldn't have the first episode without our General Secretary, Dave Ward. Welcome to the show, Dave.
It's great to be here with you, Omar. It's good to see a fresh face doing the presenting as well for the CWU. You might be an upgrade on our... No, not really. He's a great guy, isn't he, Chris Webb?
He is a wonderful guy.
So, it's really good. Looking forward to this new sort of approach from the union. I might even get a new microphone once we iron out all the creases. We get a proper studio, but we will do that. This is a pilot, so let's get cracking.
Let's do, and let's actually start there then. So, talking about the show, where exactly has it come from then, and what is it you're looking to achieve with this?
Okay, so I think that we as a union, it's fair to say that we have definitely led the field in how you engage with members. The CWU is recognised right across the trade union movement as one of the innovators in this field. And, our credit to our comms team led by Chris Webb, we've got a fantastic team. They've always been trying new ideas. So, we were in the place where we were the first union, I think, who smashed some of the industrial action ballots through some of the engagement that we did with our members. Live Facebook sessions, we were the first union to do mass meetings on that basis. And, it was a platform that I stood on. When I was General Secretary, when I became General Secretary in 2015, I was very clear that we wanted to maximise engagement and try new things. So I think this is about evolving what we've done previously and building them up momentum and trying out some new things. So, I think we're going to find that this is a way of getting more regular information to our members when they really need it, at the time they need it. We're going to be able to do that industrially on all of the issues that our members care about in the workplace, about their jobs, about their pay, their terms and conditions, and what's happening with the industries that they work in. But it's also going to give us a chance to try some things like live phone-ins, which, we've done a few of them with LBC. And I think what that achieves for you is a chance to maybe talk a bit more in detail about some of these issues. Yeah. So big challenges that we're facing, all workers are facing huge challenges. But I think what this format will eventually give us is it will give a platform to members to be able to talk to us. Accessibility to the leaders of the union is always really, really important, but maybe a bit more in-depth understanding both ways on how the members are feeling about issues and how we're trying to deal with those issues.
So it's all very new, very exciting. There's a lot to unpack there, actually. Let's start with the fact that this is going to be a digital show and it's going to be put on social media. And it means you're opening yourself and the union up potentially to, criticism and some stick from some of the members. How does that feel then, knowing that that's a possibility?
Well, I think if you're a trade unionist, and I've been a trade unionist for a long, long time, and so have lots of our reps, and we're always encouraging new people to come through. You know that in the world that we operate in, there's always going to be stick flying about. Yeah. Sometimes that's at a greater level. I mean, we've had a pretty tough time recently with the Royal Mail dispute because it was such a bitter dispute. But I think that you've got to be prepared to give people a platform to air their views. And what I would say is that you should never run away from that. And if you actually engage with people, if you engage with your own members, I've never known a meeting that you do when you actually go and meet your members, when you do this sort of stuff, where at the end of it, there aren't as many people going, do you know what, I understand that now and I support the union, as there are the people who are going to say, well, we don't agree with you. As long as it's respectful, I think members are entitled to air their views. And so, to me, personally, it holds no fear. And I'm a great believer that you have to engage with the members, good, bad, in different times. It ain't always about being here and going like how wonderful we've done. We have difficult times, difficult issues to deal with. So we've come through that in the recent disputes. And now we've got to rebuild, and we've got to rebuild that connection with our members and talk about the future of the industries that they work in.
Well, speaking about, reinforcing that connection and quite literally airing their views, there are going to be live phone-ins. So a couple of weeks away from it, 2-3 weeks, where we'll be able to have live phone-ins. Members can call up and they can, genuinely air their views and have their questions answered as the show goes on. That is, groundbreaking. I don't think any other union has done it, but it must be pretty scary at the same time, right?
I think that, again, I've kind of got used to doing that sort of stuff. I do LBC. You're going to get, sometimes a tough audience on programs like LBC, but credit to people like Ian Dow, maybe a Tory, but he gives us a platform. And what we want to do is give that same platform to our members to engage with us live, where they can not just be a keyboard warrior and put their views forward in that way, where they can actually develop their arguments, and hopefully that we can develop campaigns, we can develop new union reps coming through, we can come up with solutions to some of the problems that our members face in the workplaces, and all of that to me can only be a good thing.
And that's one of the key things here, engagement. So as we are talking engagement, our head of comms sat down with Martin Walsh earlier this week to discuss how talks with Royal Mail have been going. Here is a small clip. The full interview will be available tomorrow.
So talk us through what the union has been able to achieve in terms of restoring quality of service, and perhaps why you, as a leader of the negotiations, feel it's different and feel that it's worthwhile signing up to.
Look, the company, in terms of quality service and their financial positions, have been very difficult, and they will say they deployed those revisions by executive action to avoid administration, and they landed badly in a lot of units, and we hadn't made progress on restoring quality service. What we've made it clear is restoring quality service must be everyone's first agenda, first priority. And to be fair, Royal Mail have changed their management team. They made some further announcements yesterday, and the people we're now meeting at the head of the organisation seem to have a different sort of mentality. They want to build a better working relationship. Obviously it's easy to say, much more difficult to land, and we got a statement which stops tabletop revisions. And they had planned 250 tabletop revisions, which wouldn't have helped quality service. And we're going to then concentrate on restoring quality service. And we've got a pyramid approach where 24 units, 2 in each rod area, will be overseen by the national officers and Royal Mail nationally. And we're going to try and get to the bottom of why they failed, whether it's productively resource or whether it's a failed revision. Put in recommendations how we restore, and then divisionally they got 120, and then area wide and local wide, and we're going to have a much stronger governance body on this. I totally understand there's been a number of joint statements which have landed which have not really moved on. We've achieved two joint statements over the last week where we're determined to move forward and restore quality. And we've also got the seasonal variation issue. What
made you think, I'm confident this isn't going to be another in the long line of failed interventions?
When you negotiate something and when you believe it's the right thing to do, the only thing you can do is either reach an agreement or joint statement. And that's why we've reached a joint statement. Like I said, there is a new management team. They're saying the right things, but the only way we can rebuild trust and work together, if we agree things, they get deployed. Whilst I recognise their financial position is difficult, there are things they can do. They're paying out money on revisions, they're paying out money on agency, resourcing problems, compensation, which would be better restoring quality service. And I think if we can get that in the right pragmatic solutions, we will start restoring quality service. We'll build a momentum from the national ones we're going to oversee, and hopefully we can start moving some of these issues forward. I totally get in the sorting office, in the delivery office, you probably haven't seen much change, and it's going to take time to filter down. We're trying to create a situation where we improve quality service, we'll ease up the pressure on some of our members if they're having, coming in off their rest day, having, their walk never going out. That pressure just builds on our members, and we're trying to alleviate that by resolving quality service. But it will take some time. You've got to remember, we've come through probably the most bitter disputes that we've ever seen in Royal Mail, and tensions and relationships at all levels are strained. And what we've got to do is rebuild. We've got to get the right agreements, but we've got to make sure relationships at local level, area level, divisional level are better, and nationally we start moving forward.
Well, I want to say thank you for your time. It's really, really appreciated. And also remind members that 7 o'clock next Thursday, Martin's going to be our guest on the hour-long CW live show. So, get your questions in, put them in the comments on the feed of this video, because I'll use them to put to Martin next week. We could take 3 or 4, maybe more of your questions live on the show as well. So it's really, really important that you engage. Please share this video, because I think it's been loads of good, informative stuff in it. We're going to pick up the USO next week. We're going to pick up later starts and lots more. But until we see you next week, hope you enjoyed the interview, and thanks once again to Martin.
Some good stuff in there from Martin. And just a reminder to everyone that the full interview will be available tomorrow. But Dave, it sounds like a lot of progress is being made nationally, but when do you think members on the ground will start feeling it?
Well, this is key, obviously, for our members, because I think it's very fair to say that, they've borne the brunt of imposition of change like we've never seen before. We didn't agree with that change right the way through the dispute. Royal Mail's tactic was to impose the change, and it's been a total and utter disaster. It's almost crippled the company. It's killed quality of service. Our members are doing their very best, so they want to see action, and we get that. Martin was saying that. But what I will say to you is the team at the top in Royal Mail have gone, and what we did during the dispute and afterwards was make sure that we had to see off some of those people. We're still here as a union, they've gone. There is a new management in place, and I've got a lot of confidence in Martin Walsh as a leader of the postal side of the union. I've known him a very long time. He's a very brave person. He's not one to shout from the rooftops and all that sort of stuff. Gets on with the job. What he's really good at, he thinks about the issues that our members are facing. He knows the detail, and he's going to come up with solutions to some of these problems that our members are seeing in the workplace, particularly on quality of service, where there'll be no hiding place for Royal Mail. So, my message to our members there is give Martin and our officers and the team and your reps locally the opportunity to put these things right now. The management team have changed, and we're going to see more of that, I think, because I think they recognise now, the new CEO, that it was just unacceptable to continue in the way that the company were acting. I think he knows that you can't impose change and be successful. So a lot of work to do. But we've got the right leadership in place. We've got people who will not rest until they put some of these things right. Some big issues coming down the line. So get behind the union locally with your reps. Let's start the fresh debate. And even things like the network changes, which are going to be very difficult, were one of the big issues for our members. We're confident now that we can deliver the agreement and better when it comes to things like later starts, so that we don't have to go as far back as what Royal Mail were trying to do during the course of the dispute.
Thanks, Dave. I appreciate that. I'm sure everyone else out there does as well. And speaking of new, we have a new Deputy Secretary as well in Telecoms and Financial Services. We have Karen Rose, obviously. Andy Kerr is in the post for the coming months and very much leading the union in this area. But we will have Andy on the show as a main guest in the coming weeks. But we have been eager to speak to Karen, and we caught up with her last week. Again, the full interview will be out tomorrow, but let's hear a snippet now.
First of all, congratulations on the role. It's been a while. I know we've had Christmas, we've had the New Year, but we haven't had a chance to sit down with you. So massive congratulations. It's a hell of an achievement. It's a huge role. You must be really, really proud.
To be elected as the Deputy General Secretary, which is, more of a union official position as opposed to a lay position, is an absolutely fantastic honour.
Obviously, big shoes to fill in terms of Andy's presence in the union and the whole movement, but moreover, like the aftermath of our first major dispute with BT, for example, in 4 decades. The sort of increase in threat or presence of AI and things like that in the industry. All of the multiple telecom companies we're trying to recruit in, and we are successfully recruiting in. So big challenge for you as well. Some initial feelings from you about plans. Are you eager to get into it?
Look, they are challenges, right? And I dare say we'll face challenges along the way. And I don't underestimate that at all. But I also think there's lots of opportunities. There's lots of opportunities that we need to be exploiting now. Because you're right, we had the first dispute in BT, which is a major part of our membership in CNFS. But we, in the wider telecoms and financial services, there are a lot of commonalities. There's a lot of opportunities to organise that kind of workforce. There's never ever been a better time to be a member of a trade union. There are employment challenges out there now. We've had a government that hasn't exactly been either worker or trade union friendly for a very long time, and there are in people's employment terms, their terms and conditions have been eroded. We need, in order to really truly address that, we need to really organise in the sector. And that means every single one of our members and every single one of our activists, our branches, all of those people out there, we have to really, really seriously address now the expanding, organising trade union membership in the sectors. And that's in the right across telecoms, financial services, in the IT sector, in the postal sector, in the logistics sector. All of those things we need to really address as a trade union. But for us, I suppose, and for me as the Deputy General Secretary in Telecoms and Financial Services, what it is really expanding into the areas that are competitors to the areas where we've currently got, significant levels of membership, because the only way that we're going to protect our terms and conditions in the areas where we are already organised is by expanding that trade union recognition into the wider sector.
For many of our members, the union to them is the presence in their locality, where they work. What would your message be to our reps and to our branches about, what type of relationship you want with them and the support you'll be giving them?
So look, what I want is a really, really interactive relationship, right? I want the ideas to come up as well as down, right? I think that one of the things that we have to make sure that we get across, and I think it worked well during the dispute in BT, where everybody worked together, everybody had a part to play. Well, that doesn't go away. That doesn't just exist during dispute times. That exists all of the time. So working together and being united, that's how we achieve things. In making sure that we're getting the messages from the grassroots and we know what's going on there, that involves conversations with the grassroots, and it involves conversations with the membership and opening up those links and making sure that we've got a truly two-way street in terms of interaction. I think it's vitally important, and that is something that I'm very keen to make sure that I do.
Thank you, Erin. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Also, we're really excited to be working with you. Congratulations once again. I'm sure you've all enjoyed that. Back to you guys in the studio.
Again, some very exciting stuff there from Karen, the new Deputy Secretary, Dave. Are you looking forward to working with her? I imagine you are.
Yeah, definitely. First of all, let me say, obviously, Andy Kerr retires. Karen's role is as an elected Deputy General Secretary, what we call designate at the moment. So they'll be working together, Andy and Karen, for the next 4 or 5 months. And then Andy will retire, and as you've seen there, Karen is ready to step up to that role. She's a very formidable woman. We've worked together in the past. She's a very rounded trade unionist. She sees what I like to think is the big picture, which I think helps you understand how you deal with workplace issues, but also how you understand that the connection with issues that maybe initially are not always there for our members. Karen spoke really well there about the need to organise the wider sector in the telecommunications part of the industries that we work in. So we've got 28 companies, BT obviously the biggest company, but there's 28 companies like VMO2, companies like EE, part of BT now, Capita. These companies often compete against each other. And we've got to get across to our members that the more we can organise in those companies, the only way is up. It becomes the race to the top on pay terms and conditions rather than the race to the bottom. And I think it was great to hear Karen talking about that. It's also great for the leadership of the union to have a woman in one of the senior roles in the union, alongside now Kate Hudson, who's also one of the senior leaders, the head of our equality department. So I think it's a great decision for Karen to stand for the election. Great that she won it, and really looking forward to working with her.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate that, Dave. And here's hoping she can help bring about that change that is needed. Now, one of the things that we couldn't not cover this week is obviously the post office scandal. I'm going to come back to you on this, Dave, but we want you to deliver a reminder to members of how we got here.
January has been dominated by the fallout from ITV's Mr. Bates versus the Post Office. The new drama which showcased the human cost of the Horizon scandal in such a powerful way. The show brought national attention to the shameful treatment of many postmasters by the Post Office, who were content to throw their staff under a bus to keep on avoiding admitting mistakes that would have cost them their huge salaries and cushy positions. What happened at the Post Office is quite simple. People who have been pillars of their communities were made out to be criminals and liars overnight. Through no fault of their own, these workers saw relationships ruined, their homes lost, their savings vanished, and in some cases, tragically, people took their own life. All because management wanted to hide the issues with a dodgy piece of technology. But despite the case being so clear-cut, it's taken a television show for politicians to act. These same political leaders have been warned that the system was faulty as early as 1999, the very same year it was implemented. And as late as 2015, and after hundreds of postmasters have been unjustly found guilty of these trumped-up charges, CEO Paula Venables was defending Horizon to parliamentary committees. She had the audacity to say, "This system's working very well." And as late as 2019, Venables received a CPE. In her time at the Post Office, she pocketed over £2 million in so-called performance-related bonuses. She then became a director at the Cabinet, a reward. What planet are these people on? When the courts finally overturned the convictions of the 39 Post Office workers in 2021, this union said openly, heads must roll. And that's still true today. Exoneration for the workers is right, and so is Venables handing over her CBE. But is that it? What about the millions in bonuses? Isn't it time to give them back? What about Fujitsu also, who is still receiving lucrative contracts from this government today? When will they be held to account? And the government itself, who have got away with doing absolutely nothing despite holding a position on the Post Office board, when will they be held to account? What went on with Horizon is so typical of how badly this country is being run. It's about what happens when corporate interests trump everything. Nothing works in this country. You can't get a doctor's appointment. You can't afford to pay your bills. You can't get a train. Millions of people can't even put a roof over their head. Something in this country needs to change. Justice for the Post Office workers.
Dave, this is said to have been the biggest injustice to any group of workers anywhere in any industry in the UK. But before I put that to you and before we hear your take on it, we're just going to look at a few shorter clips. Have a watch of this.
They said they found approximately £78,000 missing.
And you're not allowed back in the Post Office, and the next thing you know, you're in court. You admitted theft, which again is a familiar story we're hearing from so many sub-postmasters speaking out about this. Mm-hmm. They plead guilty. They admit another charge, a lesser charge, because they're advised that they'll get a lesser sentence. The judge will go easy on them. You admitted theft and you ended up with an 18-month prison sentence,
Yes.
BJ, of which you served 6 months. That's long enough for a crime you didn't commit. I mean, what was the knock-on effect of that? You come out with a criminal record, the impact on your life. Talk to me about what happened.
I've lived in that area where this office was for over 55 years with my father, mother, and I've got to
North West
know.
London. Yeah.
I've got to know everyone in that area from when I was young. I mean, they knew me, my parents and everyone, but we couldn't live there anymore. We had to move out of the area. I even had a heart attack.
I was like, no, I've got girls. I've got children. I can't go to prison. They said, well, you will, unless you come up with a story. If you pay it back, all this will go away. My lawyer said, you need to be clear with your kids because you might not come back. And I called my oldest and I said, look, Mom is going to call.
Seiji, we've got you.
Sorry?
We've got you.
Yeah. Mom is going to court and I might not come back.
Okay.
I want you to know how to deal with washing machine. Make sure this
You
is
went
an
into practical mum mode.
Yes,
Yeah.
this is an alarm. Wake your sisters up. Make sure you go to school and make sure you do your homework. It might not be long. Mom will be back home.
Yeah, you were given a 50-week sentence, suspended for 2 years,
For 2
and
years.
ordered to complete 200 hours community service, which you did.
I did.
Wow. I mean, Dave, this just seems so wrong. How could this have happened?
Well, I mean, when you see the individual postmasters who have been doing interviews, and there's so many of them that are starting to talk about this every day now, you're seeing more and more. I mean, it really is heartbreaking, some of their personal stories, and it makes you angry. It makes you also, I'm going to say this in the right way, hopefully, it also though shows that those individuals, you know, decent people, pillars of their community, their resilience and their tenacity, and the fact that they, when they were being told they were all on their own, and obviously the post office deliberately tried to create that sort of feeling amongst the individual postmasters. In the end, their collectivism, their coming together, people like Alan Bates, who led that campaign, the alliance. The one that struck me a lot, and I can't not mention it, is Seema Misra, who went to prison. She was pregnant. Yeah. I heard her speak the other day, and it was just such a humbling experience to actually listen to her speaking. I heard her husband speaking. He had a business within the Woking community, and he's on the podcast that Nick Walsh done for the BBC, which is well worth a listen. And you know, I mean, it just makes you angry. So what have we got here? We've got a situation where a group of executives in the post office have abused their power. They've destroyed the lives of hundreds and over 1,000 now. There's more cases coming forward. People destroyed their lives in a way that they knew what they were doing. Let's never forget that. They took a decision to cover this up rather than face the music themselves. That's unforgivable. And in destroying their lives, they have to pay the price. And the inquiry that's going on, we'll give evidence at that inquiry. I'm due to give evidence in the near future. They will have to face, in our view, criminal proceedings. And that's only right in the same way that those individuals faced criminal proceedings. They must be held to account. Now, there's other aspects of this that we need to talk about, because they also have destroyed one of the greatest brands, one of the greatest institutions in the UK. They've destroyed the image of the post office. And the workers who are still working in the post office are having to face that now. That's unacceptable. That's why there needs to be a wider change about what is the future of the post office. And I'm going to say something about not just the individuals, and some of them, it's not just Paula Venables, but clearly she oversaw a lot of it. There'll be others, there'll be ex-Royal Mail people when the company was joined together who need to be held to account. But we can't forget here that they have basically, them and the government, have been managing the decline of the post office for years and years. They're never interested in making it a successful business, and that type, what's happened here is typical of the disease that you've got in the UK. Chris mentioned it, where these so-called executives, who sometimes people, they're all on the same boards, they do a merry-go-round of different boards. Let me tell you this, there's a lot of them ain't fit to run companies like the post office. Never were in the first place, haven't got the ability. I saw one of the postmasters being interviewed today who actually turned it into that debate and said what this also shows is the lack of ability of people to run a business. And we've got to do something about that. The UK has got to do something about that. So, you know, to give you a sort of emerging perspective for this as well, is we've got members in the Crown Office network. The Post Office network operates in two ways. It's the Crown Office network where you have directly employed workers, and obviously the sub-postmasters are, they run their own businesses, they're not directly employed by the Post Office, and they've been abused. We've got to find, coming out of this, a new model of governance for a company like the Post Office, where workers have a greater say over the future. We've got to end, I think, the managed decline that the government. So when I see the government, Chris mentioned this as well, the government sort of now making out that they're actually trying to do the right thing, to pay the levels of compensation, to quash all of the convictions collectively, which is absolutely the right thing to do. We can't forget the fact, because we see this all the time, we can't forget the fact that this government and its predecessor, coalition government, they created a structure in the post office where they actually put one of their people on the board of the post office. Now that hasn't come to the surface as much as it should have done. So it's inconceivable that the government didn't know more about what's going on. And I think our job is to expose that. I'll certainly be talking about the reality of that. And obviously we want to, we want to help in any way we can. Some of our members who dealt with the system, the Horizon system, they got picked up on it in the Crown offices, but it has to be said that through the procedures that the union had as agreements, gains and losses procedures they're known as, we were able to protect our members. So there's a debate to be had here about the need for an independent union rather than a federation looking after postmasters' interests going forward.
Right, I see. Obviously that's what the CWU has done and what they have been able to do in this time, but all of the workers affected, some of them, a lot of them, weren't CWU members. They aren't. Why aren't they though?
Well, what I was explaining is that they are not directly employed employees, so they're business people that run their own businesses and they franchise off of the post office. We've actually been running a campaign for a number of years now where we wanted to give those people worker status for the time that they were actually working and doing post office transactions. So we have recruited around 300 sub-postmasters. It's very difficult for us because the company didn't want to recognise the CWU because, look, there's no other way of putting this. This will come out and we're certainly going to be giving evidence of this. At the height of when this was really starting to be known that there was a major problem and that these people were innocent people, the Federation that represented them, who sometimes pretended they were a trade union. They were a staff association, effectively. What's unforgivable is that the Federation actually done a deal with Paula Venables, where they looked after themselves. Paula Venables and the Post Office Board decided to do a deal at that point where they funded the roles of the leaders of the Federation. And the leaders of the Federation went on record saying that they didn't believe there was a problem. Now that made it very difficult for anybody else, any organised people, to try and get to the bottom of what was going on. We were fighting closures at the time. I wish, when I saw the programme, you do sit there and you say, is there anything else we could have done as a union? We weren't given the same level of information. The point I'm making is, had that been a proper trade union, rather than a federation that was being funded by the Post Office, then I think we would have got to the bottom of it a lot quicker. So what do we want to do now? We want to see if it's possible to recruit sub-postmasters, but we want to do that in a way that gives them a voice over the future running of the business. And I think it's time, coming out of this, that we could actually start to change the whole way the Post Office is run, the way it's governed, and give the postmasters a voice on how they run the whole business. And let's see if we can develop it in a way where maybe it can become a community hub, it can be a bank, it can be lots of different things to what it is now. But the first step in doing that, it could help the high street grow again, because you do need that sort of community hub there. It can do ethical banking. These are policies that our union has put forward for many years. We are talking to the Labour Party. Had a conversation the other day with Keir Starmer about this. Not just to sort of get in behind the postmasters, but to start building their future, to build a future for the workers there and build the company up again. So we've got a big agenda here, and it'd be great. We got an event very soon where we're going to be talking to some of the sub-postmasters, where we're going to put our own sub-postmaster members. Our main guy at the moment, new rep, is a guy called Sean Hudson, who's come in, and he's going to be speaking to some of the sub-postmasters, where our members can join with the existing sub-postmasters and build that collective strength. But I suppose my final point would be on it is that, credit to people like Alan Bates, to some of the people, Joe Hamilton. I just find it incredible that they've been that strong through it. Sally Stringer, I saw her speaking earlier on today. Lee Castleton, there's so many of them. Just fantastic people, been through unbelievable things and are coming out the other end. So credit to them. Their story is one of, I think another side of it is inspiration, is courage, is of resilience of human beings at the highest level that you're ever going to see.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Sounds like there's a lot of intent there from the CWU, which is great to hear. And then, obviously, as things go on in our future shows, we'll be looking to follow the coverage and give you the latest updates. But now it's time for our regular feature. On the spot, well, we're hoping it's going to be a regular feature. It's going to be a bit of a gear change, but on these cards, I've got 5 questions, and each week we'll be asking our main guest, Dave this week obviously, to answer the same 5 questions. Are you ready?
Yeah, go on. Let's go for it.
I've also written the answers underneath because I've done a little bit of research. I've obviously had a bit of a chat with you, and I thought, okay, let me see if I can guess what he's going to say. So here's the first one.
Let's go for it.
If you were elected Prime Minister, what would be the first thing that you would do?
Well, I'd have to say, because it's a campaign that the CWU has run from the start, it would be to introduce a new deal for working people. And by saying that, it gives us a lot of scope to change a lot of things. So we've got Labour to a position now where the New Deal for Working People is one of their flagship policies in the forthcoming general election. So on top of things like ending fire and rehire, on top of things like introducing sectorial collective bargaining, which will drive up standards of pay and conditions everywhere, on top of repealing the anti-trade union laws to allow unions to organise more effectively. I'd introduce a 4-day week for working people. I'd introduce pay ratios between these leaders of companies and the workforce, so that never again can you have this huge gap. So there's a big agenda there. So it's definitely a new deal for working people. We definitely need it.
Love it. Vote for Dave. Vote for Dave, everyone. I actually put here just to renationalise.
Yeah, but you can do that under the New Deal for working people.
There we go. So
renationalise Royal Mail, renationalise BT, of course.
Wonderful. That was there. I mean, personally, I'll probably ban lorries from dual carriageways the right-hand lane, but you know, I've got small dreams. If you weren't General Secretary, then what would you be?
Well, that's a question, isn't it? I'd probably be a postal worker at Tooting. With my old mates. Yeah. I'd probably be a union rep. What would I want to be? I'd want to be a member of the Rolling Stones, I think. Lifetime ambition to be a bit of a musician.
In a band.
Yeah, you go.
So we meet the Rolling Stones.
Once.
Were you?
Yeah, didn't last very long. We wasn't very good.
We should start an internal one over here.
There's a story I could tell you about how the band finished one day.
Yeah? Okay, maybe for the next show.
And how it started.
We'll go for it. You're going to a desert island.
Yeah.
What 3 items are you going to take with you?
Well, I'm going to follow the same pattern, aren't I? So I'm definitely taking a guitar.
Right.
Yeah, got to be done, isn't it?
Uh-huh.
I'm probably taking a Bear Grylls survival book because I'm not very good at sort of DIY.
Yeah.
So I would want to understand what I've got to do to survive. And I suppose the third thing would be pen and paper.
Pen and paper.
Something to write. Something to get down all of your ideas for the future. Something to how you're going to change the world. What a great moment to do it. So they'd be the 3 things.
Fair enough. I actually put guitar.
4 things there.
Guitar was the first thing. Obviously knowing you would be a guitar. I put a Chelsea shirt. Apparently you support Chelsea, so I thought
I do.
You'd want a bit of a reminder while you're out there.
Lifelong, yeah.
You know, going out there, not having to view their games and watch them lose, but you know.
Yeah, not doing very well at the moment. It's a mad club, believe me.
Don't doubt it. And a CWU handbook I put. So I put some literature, but
close.
Very, very close. Okay, right. Your favourite karaoke tune?
I haven't really got one favourite karaoke tune. I'm up for doing whatever is like the latest thing, really. What did I do at Christmas?
You're going into a booth.
Let me
playlist.
Well, Christmas we did karaoke like a lot of families do.
Oh, yeah.
But my job was to get all the younger grandchildren. We've got a lot of grandchildren, but the very young ones. So what was I singing Christmas? Twinkle Twinkle Little Star, along with the grandkids. But the song I probably would go for, which I sometimes sing, is a Neil Diamond song, but a much better song than Sweet Caroline, which you get a bit bored of hearing, which is Crackling Rose.
I haven't actually heard that.
Right. Come out in about 1971. Right. My memories of it go back to a youth club in our old secondary school, Catholic school in Chelsea. Tommy Moores, give it a shout out. And the guy who ran the youth club always used to play it. So, it stayed with me, that one. Great song.
I put Rolling Stones Painted Black.
You could put any Rolling Stones song and I'd be up there with it.
So, you know what, I'm going to tick that as right off for me. Fifth and final one, actually. So, 3 people, I'm going to give you 3 names, and you got to tell me what you're going to do, and with who, and why. So, the 3 options: you're going to take them to dinner, as one option. You're going to share a jail cell with them, as another. And the last one is never see them again. And the 3 people that you've got, they're all formers, actually. So you've got former Royal Mail Group CEO, Simon Thompson. Mm-hmm. We have former Prime Minister Boris Johnson. And former World Cup winner Diego Maradona. Who are you doing with what and why?
Right, might have to help me here, remind me with the choices.
No worries. Dinner, prison cell.
You've picked right 3 people there, haven't you?
I mean, there's one obvious.
There's one obvious one. What a fantastic talent, creative talent, brilliant footballer, probably the best there's ever been, certainly in the top 2 or 3, Diego Maradona. So I could see maybe sharing a prison cell with him. You might get a bit of good treatment. You might learn a few. He might learn a few football tricks off of me. You never know if we had a ball, keepy uppy and all of that sort of stuff. But at the same time, I think you couldn't miss the opportunity to go to dinner with him, could you? And
Nice
just
little scene,
share a really nice moment with one of the world's greatest talents in football ever. The other two, well, I mean, you couldn't have picked. They're two very similar people, by the way. Got very similar
really?
traits, yeah. So what springs to mind? They're both deluded, both quite strange people, both up themselves. And you know that thing like when people struggle to tell the truth, what do we call them? Oh, it's liars. Both liars.
Okay.
So splitting them two, I think. So what have I got left? I've got.
Well, you said share a prison cell with Maradona.
Yeah.
You got dinner.
No, I said dinner.
You did dinner.
I said dinner.
Okay, dinner.
I talked about, but
Okay.
I went for dinner with Maradona.
You're going Nando's with Maradona, or
Yeah.
whatever you fancy. You got share a prison cell, and you've got never see again.
Right. So the other two, you could put them in either category, really, couldn't you? But I would probably say Simon Thompson, never see again.
Oh, okay.
Now, Simon Thompson might see us again because apparently he keeps watching all of our stuff still. But look, the guy done huge damage to our industry, Royal Mail, along with other managers. And therefore, I have no hesitation in saying it'd be good not to see Simon again.
Yeah.
I think business needs to look at that as well. Sorry to say it, but people pay the price. Workers pay the price all the time. So let's hope that, like other industries who might be on that merry-go-round of thinking there's business leaders who worked in Royal Mail, let's hope they've seen the same as what our members have seen. So yeah, Simon Thompson, never see again would be a result.
So
that leaves
you're shacking up
Johnson,
with Boris Johnson.
Johnson and Thompson. I've just realised there's a tongue twister for you. Johnson then share a prison cell with. So I've got no choice now. I've got to share a prison cell with Boris Johnson. What would that do? I think we'd change him. I think I think he'd end up coming out like a revolutionary, but as a socialist revolutionary, as somebody who was going to change the world in a different way that he was planning to change the world. So I'd spend a bit of time in there convincing him that he was wrong, and getting him to start to see the world through the lens of ordinary working people genuinely and do the right thing. So yeah, that'd be the order, I think. You're not giving me a lot of choice really, but I'll go with that.
No, well, you've given yourself quite a task there, but if you're going to have a number of years...
It'd be funny as well, I think.
Well, hopefully you're not put in that position, but...
no, let's hope that...
if ever it happens, good luck on that task. Well, some great answers there anyway. Thank you for that. Really appreciate it. And this is actually the end of episode 1. This is our pilot, like I said. It is the end of it. But Dave, you tell me, have you enjoyed it? We've had obviously a slew of different people on, great guests, great clips as well. And obviously we talked to yourself. But is there anyone that you would have in mind that you would want us to interview?
In terms of interviewing people, I think other trade union leaders, maybe. Be great to see at some point people like Mick Lynch, Joe Grady, other trade union leaders come and be interviewed and talk about the wider perspective. Some politicians, maybe, who potentially... he'd be good to interview, the guy who did the select committee, Darren Jones. Yeah. I think our members would like to see him. And other sort of up-and-coming politicians who we think are good, people like Zara Sultana. Yeah. There's plenty out there, people who we think are really good, got the right policies, who deserve the support. So yeah, I mean, I think the programme itself, let's hope it develops. Yeah. This is a pilot, as we stressed at the start, and let's make sure that we can develop it properly, and that our members, my message to our members would be spread the word. The union's moving on engagement to another level again. It's being done so that we can maximise accessibility for you as members, give you the platforms, debate the issues you want us to debate. So tell the other members, we've got a big year coming up in all of the industries where we represent members. It really is a pivotal moment for working people, I think, in terms of what's coming down the line, AI, things like this where the world of work is under a lot of scrutiny. And it has never been more important for us to be, one, in a trade union. So if you know people who are members at the moment and you know colleagues who are not in the union, get them to join the union. But also remember, this is a big, big year for a change in policy, a change in government, and hopefully try and rebalance power, rebalance wealth, and start looking after working people again, and ordinary people, because when you see some of the things that are going on at the moment, you know that we need to come together like never before. So hopefully we can cover things that are in work, but also make the connection with the things that trade unions do to help and support our members out of work. So been great speaking to you, Omar.
Yeah.
I thought you've done a great job for your first one, and I'm sure you're going to do plenty more for us. Thanks very much.
And you've been a fantastic first guest as well. We wouldn't have anyone else. Dave Ward, thank you very much. And thank you to everyone watching and tuning in as well. Really appreciate it. We'll be back next week, so hopefully we can see you then as well. Remember, this is a pilot. So any thoughts that you have, just let us know what you think, what we can do to improve things, or what you think we can include in the show. But we can't wait to see you next week and beyond. Until then, stick with your union.